I know many are skeptical on options and wondering if they can trade options. And I just really want to help people in understanding that you can trade options. I have only been trading options for a few months, and I've just learned quite a few things. And so I just want to share them with you. First of all, Nasdaq. This is the daily. It'd be surprising for many of us to realize that this candle right here provided multiple 100% returns. And so I just wanted to show that to you. So we'll get this set up here and we'll go through our day. And really, before we start, I just want to say that, even if you're not seeking 100% returns, which I know that can sound pretty ridiculous, that you can target 20% returns and then try to find ways to build that up and possibly get 50% returns. Because when you think about small caps, if you've been trading them, if you can get 5% or 10% in a day, that's pretty exciting. So this is something I see every day, that there are possibilities for major returns with the Nasdaq. So let me just show you how I look at the Nasdaq in a day. And this is something that we'll probably have to point out right away, that you want to avoid the open. Just to like with, oh, it looks like I didn't go all the way back to the beginning of the day. So let's just rewind here a little bit and make sure that we start right at that, because I wanted to show you the opening range breakout that can occur. So when we start a day, it's good to let the range be defined in the first 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And so this over here is Friday, and we are now looking at Monday morning. And so you can see right away, this is moving up and it's continuing the action that we saw from last week. And that was a trap. Definitely, I call that a fake up. And so we'll just mark these spots here. If we can get that resistance right there, and then we can kind of take a look at this down here and say that right down here is our support. And in that first 15 minutes, I never trust the move. I want to see what the real move might be as we get moving along. And so now we're 20 minutes in, and you can see that next candle is a pretty strong one. And so really what we're hoping to see is that if it will continue down through support here, we can put in a bid for put. And so I will show you right here, when it breaks down through this, you can have a stop limit order that kicks in right there, because I do realize that that happened really fast. Okay, so there's a couple of things that you can do. You can either try to anticipate the move with maybe a PSAR switch. Sometimes we can see those things that happen really fast right here. The PSAR switch just switched over right there. Or someone could have a quick trigger and they get in really fast when they see that breakdown. I put a stop limit order in, and that meant that I got in less than $1. I think I got in at like 86 cents right there. And so this move right here, and so let's just add that in here and just say, okay, that was 86 cents if you got in right away. But let's say you got in at $1. We'll put that right over here on this candle. And realistically, let's just say, okay, well, maybe I was a little late, and so I got in at $1. And sometimes you feel like you missed the move. But let's just watch this one and see how this one goes. Now, it's pretty typical that when a move like that occurs, it might come back up and retest what was previous support. But you can see right here, this is not really moving back up and retesting that much at all. It's a very strong move down. A couple things to notice is this green line right here is the 8 EMA. So the last 8 days, there's an exponential average, and this is representing that. I have my cloud set in between the 20 EMA. And so when it's red and it's below that, that really does show a strong move. With these contracts, let's see here. Yeah, 10 minutes later, really after this move right here, those contracts went to $1.88. So 100% move actually almost happened right there. At the high, they did go to $2.53. And so that is a question I know many have of when should I get out? First of all, I have a rule. If there's 100%, I'm at least selling one of those contracts. It's just not even something I'm going to debate. I might come back later and add in, but right here, this is a good spot to realize that it's hitting some support, and this is where it hit to 253. And if you're in at $1, right, that means that's 100 contracts for $1. So you've got $100 right there, and you could sell $100 for $253, but you're not doing it, then you're doing it wrong. You need to take in those profits when that occurs, especially when you see that there's a little bit of support down there. So this is what we're looking for in our day. We're looking for an opening range breakout. Some people call it the ORB, O-R-B, opening range breakout. It could break up or it could break down. And you want to start scaling out profits and then set your stop loss. At this point, you could have set your stop loss above this yellow line, and you could have just moved it up accordingly with the play. And then that would just guarantee that you're not losing any money on this play at all, because we know this has been pretty volatile recently and things can turn on us pretty quickly. Speaking of, this is coming back and it's testing the 8. And we can expect that it's going to come back and test the 8. But if it moves above the 20, that's definitely a time to get out. The 20-day moving average is definitely a time to respect. Okay. Now you might notice I put the dots on here, the PSAR. Okay, so PSAR stands for parabolic stop and reverse. And you can see right here that this now turned to green. And so if the dot is underneath, that means, just think of these dots as like pushing. So when they're on the top up here, they're almost like pushing it down. And it's just a lagging indicator, but it gives you a little bit of an objective view on what you should be doing. And right here, it turned into calls. And I have found out when that happens and it turns into calls, especially just, about an hour in, you need to respect that. It might come up, it might hit VWAP, and it might bounce down. That's what this yellow line is. So volume weighted average price. I'm looking at the strength of the candles, and you can see these are strong. I'm also looking at the PSAR, but the 820 does tell me the sentiment for the day. And this is a strong sentiment. However, it's a pretty good bounce too. So let's see what happens. I would be out of my puts at this point, and I would be thinking of a way to get in and possibly get some calls going. That's really how this works. You got to be like water. You got to be able to react and respond. But what I need to know is that if this is going to have a continued move, it needs to stay above VWAP, and it does need to clear what was previous support and previous, now it's resistance. And so you want to be careful just jumping in on a whim. But this does look like a stronger move. And now you can see that that ended up moving up above what was previous support, and it turned into resistance. So now this is really interesting to me, right? We went from $1 on those contracts, and they went all the way down to $2.53. And so we have more than 100% move there. But then calls at this point down here, I wanted to check in on calls. I have that written down. That calls did go from, 98 cents. The 351 calls were about $1 right here, and they went all the way up to $1.95. So we've got another move right here where it's almost 100% move. I mean, that's a V shape that we've got in our day, and what a way to start out on a Monday. But the action continues. So yes, scale out at 20%, 50%, and you can keep a contract just for the possibility that it might go to 100%. But when you start to see that this is stalling out and it's hitting a resistance line up here, You want to make sure that you've taken your profits at that point for sure. And we'll see very soon why that was an important thing to do. You can see the fade. We've got 3 red candles in a row there. You can see definite resistance up here. And you can see the PSAR dot is creeping up. The PSAR dot is coming up here and possibly showing a reversal. Okay, so now we still have those lines of support and resistance. And I would put a line right at the bottom of these wicks. Let me see if I can just get it just right. And hopefully you can see right underneath these wicks right there that if it would close under these wicks, I would start accumulating my puts. And then if it's under the 20 EMA, I would definitely be adding to my puts at that point. Now the PSAR is about ready to switch, I believe. Yep, you can see the dots up there. So now the PSAR is calling out for puts. This seems like it's happening fast, but that did take about an hour for that move to occur. And so now you can see possibly the high of the day is in right now, and it does need to break under this line of support. And it really, really did. Okay, so once again, you could actually you could put in a stop call right here, where a stop buy, where if it would go underneath right here on this line, a stop buy on your put would get you in at that spot. And so I have this one at 66 cents. This was 66 cents right here. Now it bounced a little bit, but that's a long candle, and you can see the volume down here that we know we're in for a ride. We're in for a ride down. And even if you got in down here a little bit over $1, it's going to possibly come back up and test VWAP. Even if you got in a little bit over $1, you know this candle right here is a strong move, okay? And you can also see these 820 clouds have turned red. So calls, they'll turn green. Now the 820 has crossed over, and you can see 2 massive candles, and they're under VWAP. That definitely volume-weighted average price tells us the average price is favoring the bears as this is moving down. So what a seesaw move here. That is quite a massive move, and this is when Powell came out and said that there could be a 50 point rate hike in May. Most likely that would occur. And so with these long candles here, yes, this is a good time to get in for sure. And then the question too is, like, how far is this going to move down? Well, one thing to look at for sure is the low of the day. And you want to find out, will it get down that far? That might test that level. And you can see we've got strong moves down. But if it doesn't come down and test this level, oh, you can see right there, it really bounced at that level right there. And you can see this is a little bit of what I would call like a tweezer candle, where this candle right here is about the same length as that one. That's a strong, I wouldn't call it a bounce necessarily, but a strong kind of area of support. But then it did end up moving down below the lowest, low of the previous low of the day. And so at this point in time, right? So if we got in at 66 cents right up here, and the only reason we're saying that that was a good time to enter is that it confirmed below that 20 EMA. So that's 66 cents right there. And right down here at the very bottom of that, I took notes on that one, and that moved all the way down to $2.61. And so that is a massive move. Not quick on my math right now, but that'd be about a 200% move. And so yes, obviously you're taking profits at that 100%. And then, this bounce, it seemed like it happened pretty fast. But you would definitely want to make sure that you have your stop right above the wicks here on these candles. So it hasn't hit there yet. If you saved one contract, just in case this thing was going to bleed all day, you would have that stop right here. And it's testing that 8 EMA, so it might come back up right on the top of these wicks, and we'll see what happens here. So this was definitely a back and forth day, but if you're practicing taking profits when they're at least at 20% and then at 50%, I like to take profits at 20% and then put a stop right above my entry so that I'm guaranteeing that I'm going to make at least 10 to 15% off of a particular move. And now you can see this is really climbing back, showing some of the strength from last week. And hopefully your day is done by now. If you've got a couple of 100% moves in your day and you can just have some lunch and call it a day, I think that's great, because the rest of the day was really, really frustrating. It started to come back up and somebody could have entered right here. This was a strong candle. But then it's really good to know what was previous support and resistance and make sure that if it's not holding above VWAP that you're careful. And the rest of the day was kind of a seesaw back and forth. I did end up losing on a put up here because I'll show you this soon here. It breaks down below and then it kind of bounces. But that's okay. We're dealing with probabilities here. We're not dealing with certainties. Yeah, right there. So to me, as I was watching this, I'll put my trend line on here. This was definitely, looks like this is lagging a little bit. Yeah, this was definitely breaking down through a trend that was occurring here, this slow trend up, and it was breaking down. And that is where I will enter. It just, when the trend is broken, you want to make sure you're paying attention to that. But the afternoon, whatever it was, I think there was some confused signals in some of these algos because you can see this move did not hold for very long. It's rare when you see a strong candle like that when there won't be continuation. And so after this, it just became back and forth battle, and it got pretty ugly. But there were 3 chances for moves that were well over 50% before this point. Actually, 2 that were 100%. I would even say no-brainers. But I just wanted you to see how this ends here on the day because this was pretty crazy. The PSAR just switched over to a buy, but now you can see it's coming back down here. The PSAR is not something that you can just count on all the time. I took some profits right there, and then all of a sudden, boom, this really, really came out of nowhere. And when that got above VWAP, I was definitely out. So just to keep things nice and neat, I'm just going to turn off the PSAR here. And you can just see if we zoom out here on this move, we had well over 100% move, almost 100% move, about a 200% move. And in that way, you don't even have to have too much in your account. If you have a cash account, you can make multiple trades in a day, and very, very realistic that you would make $1,000 in a day, even if you only have a couple $1,000s in your account when you think of 100% and 200% moves. So I wanted to show you that, and just you can take a screenshot of this and just look at what that 820 does, that when it crosses under that 8 EMA or it crosses over, there is a move after that. And sometimes we don't know how long it's going to go, but there is a move when the 820 on the 5-minute crosses. So best of luck to you. Let me know if you have any questions. I'd be happy to help.